All right. Can you hear me all right now? Good. Thank you so much for coming today. Let me introduce our president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jen Andrews, who will do our introductions. Jen.
Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate you being here today. Welcome. Welcome all of our partners. Welcome, first of all, the Lieutenant Governor for being a special guest here today. We're excited to hear him speak to us. Also, thank you very much, Senator Pittman, who's in the House today, and also Representative Tim Johnson. I almost called you by the wrong name. I like to do that a lot. Those who know me know I do that. Also, thank you for our partners for the Department of Commerce who are here, all of our local city partners, and economic development partners. We're thrilled that you made it and appreciate your cooperation and partnership today. On behalf of the Government Affairs Committee and the Chamber of Commerce, we just appreciate everyone coming together, working with this regionalism, and informing everybody about our economic development initiatives here in the county. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time because we've got a tight schedule, so I do want to go ahead and introduce our keynote speaker today. David Toland is the 52nd Lieutenant Governor for the state of Kansas, and he also serves as our Secretary of State for the Kansas Department of Commerce. He is a 7th-generation Kansan, and he was appointed Secretary of Commerce by Lieutenant Governor Kelly in January 2019, and he was appointed Secretary of Commerce by Governor Kelly in 2019 and appointed Lieutenant Governor in January 2021. During his time as Secretary, Kansas has become a dominant force in economic development, twice garnering the most private sector investment per capita of any state in the nation, breaking every previous record for capital investment and job creation in state history. Nearly $20 billion of business investment since 2019 has sparked a new era in economic development, which has been bolstered by workforce and community development success that will keep the state on track for sustained growth for decades to come. This wave of economic momentum was spurred by a complete overhaul of the Department of Commerce led by Lieutenant Governor Toland. This included getting Kansas re-engaged internationally with a strong presence reestablished in Europe, Asia, and Central America, and a new emphasis on growth in rural communities, like ours. In addition, the state has focused on improving quality of life through historic new investments in infrastructure, broadband, housing, childcare, tourism, community vibrancy, recreation, workforce training programs, and apprenticeships. Toland has also led the state's successful recruitment of the largest economic development project in the state history, the $4 billion, 4,000 job Panasonic electrical vehicle battery plant in DeSoto that we just got to hear about at LCDC's luncheon that will be open in January 2025. Toland has extensive experience in urban and rural economic development, having worked at the local level both in Washington, D.C. and in his hometown of Iola in Allen County. He holds both a bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Kansas. Go Jayhawks. Yeah, let's hear it. So without further ado, please welcome Lieutenant Governor Toland.
Well, thank you so much, Jen, and thanks to everybody for being here. I especially want to acknowledge Senator Pittman. Great to see you, Jeff. Representative Johnson there he is. Good to see you, Representative. Thank you. I have a lot of affection for Leavenworth County. I've come here any number of times in both an official and unofficial capacity, including swim meets on Saturday mornings in Leavenworth for my kids. And so really glad to be back. I even hired, one of my first hires is a Basehor Linwood grad, Colton Gibson, actually. So it's wonderful to be here. I want to read you a quick story. The Smiths were proud of their family tradition. Their ancestors had come to America on the Mayflower, and their descendants included senators and Wall Street wizards. They decided to compile a family history, a legacy for their children and their grandchildren. They hired a fine author, and only one problem arose, which was how to handle Great Uncle George, the criminal, who was executed in the electric chair. The author said that he could handle the story tactfully. The book appeared, and it said, and I quote, "Great Uncle George occupied a chair of applied electronics at an important government institution, was attached to his position by the strongest of ties, and his death came as a great shock." I like to read that as a way of making clear that I like to be a straight shooter. I think it's important to be direct and honest about what the dynamics are in our state and in communities. And I'm going to give you a bunch of data here this morning about what's going on in Kansas and what the future looks like. And so I'm going to talk about the numbers as far as jobs and capital investments statewide. We'll talk specifically about Leavenworth County. Going to also talk about what our deal flow looks like. So the economic development projects that we are chasing at the moment, how many of those and what types of projects they are. And then we'll talk about our plan, which is called the Framework for Growth, and how the Framework for Growth has guided our work and will continue to guide our work going forward. You can't just go chasing after everything. You have to have priorities. And then I'm happy to take some questions and have some discussion. So in the Kelly administration, we have had almost $19 billion of private sector investment that's come to the state. That is the most in that period, if you adjust for inflation, since the 1940s. It's 66,000 jobs. Nearly all of those are new, but there are a few that are retained. And when I say retained, what I'm talking about is we go to other states and we try and take their businesses and bring them to Kansas. I'm very, blunt about that. This is the game. We go out and we hunt for businesses and we try and bring them here. Well, other states do that too. And Jen mentioned when I was Economic Development Director in Iola, I think it was 2013, we had a major business closure where a manufacturer in town, one of the largest manufacturers, moved to Mexico. We had another company that moved to Indiana. And, with Indiana in particular, they're a competitor state for us. They were coming in and poaching Kansas companies left and right. I'm really proud that on the retention side, we aren't getting our clocks cleaned like we were back in the day. We are actually on the offensive because we have been able to get a presence reestablished on the East Coast, in Chicago for the Great Lakes region. We've got a person on the West Coast. We've got folks in the Southeast, and these are full-time people who work for Kansas that are paying visits to companies every day. But then we also have in-state a whole team of folks, and I've got Ernie Bedeau, who is right here, who has this region. So Ernie, and then there's Craig Van Wy, who's the head of the in-state business development team. So they work with the existing companies that are here to make sure that they grow in Kansas. And when we've got a situation where another state is trying to steal our companies, they're the first line of defense, and they make sure that that doesn't happen. So there's a lot that goes into these investment numbers and these job numbers. So this used to be my favorite slide up until last year. So I don't think I have a laser here. So my first year in office, 2019, we did $1.3 billion worth of economic development deals. And to be frank about it, I was thrilled. The governor was thrilled. Everybody was really happy. $1.3 billion was a great year. And we weren't sure what we'd be able to do in the first year of a new administration. We had a lot of rebuilding that needed to happen. Commerce had largely been gutted. And so we managed to do $1.3 billion. Well, then COVID hit, and states had decisions to make. Are you going to pause when you've got the greatest cataclysmic event to hit the economy, the global economy, in 80 years? Or do you hit the gas? What we chose to do in Kansas was hit the gas. So you had sectors that were growing rapidly. So you think about the rise in e-commerce that happened in particular as a result of COVID. Well, what do we have in Kansas? We've got #2 highways in the country. We've got an incredible rail system. We have tons of land and it's cheap. That's a great place for logistics and distribution. So we've had 3 Amazon facilities open in the state. We brought Urban Outfitters facility to Wyandotte County, which is, that's 2,000 jobs and $400 million investment, smaller deals around the state. So we went from 1.3 billion our first year to 2.5 in 2020, and then up to 3.8, and then it was 2022 when we went up to 7.4 billion with the announcement of Panasonic. And I'm highly competitive. Governor Kelly's highly competitive. I wanted to get to 10 billion last year, and you can see that didn't happen. We dropped dramatically to 3.1 billion. 3.1 billion, though, as my team likes to remind me, is the 3rd highest in state history. So it was a drop over the previous year, but it's still an excellent year. And I'll put this in a little more context in a second. So here you can see historically what the state did in the previous decade before Governor and I took office, and then what's happened since. So I'm really pleased that I think there's a sustained record of performance here. It's not a fluke. The economy has fundamentally changed in Kansas, and it is fundamentally stronger than it's been in our lifetimes. Okay, so normally the first quarter of the year is a very slow quarter for doing deals. That has not been the case this year, and it may be part of why our numbers for last year didn't land where I wanted. So we are already at 844 million. We just closed a $71 million deal yesterday. So we're inching up on $1 billion already, and we'll be over $1 billion by the end of the month next week. So it is really a good year. I'm optimistic about where we're headed. Let's talk about jobs. So traditionally for economic development folks, so Lisa Haack here from LCDC, folks, those of us that are in the profession, historically the metric was always jobs. It wasn't so much about capital investment, it was how many jobs you bring. Well, we have a different context now, which is there's a national talent shortage, a workforce shortage. There aren't enough people anywhere. And so what we're focused on really is about getting these large-scale investments that are so large that it's hard for companies to just pick up and leave. And we've been landing a lot of those. But jobs are still important, obviously. So we've been relatively steady on the jobs front, though last year we went down significantly. And so here's what it looks like going back 12 years. So we had some rough years in the last decade, but we've generally, up until last year, been around 13,000 or more jobs brought into the state in a year. Okay, so all of this work that we've done together with our partners across the state, and most importantly, our private sector partners, the businesses that are actually making these decisions on where to invest and where to hire, has changed the state's image nationally and globally. And so we have racked up just about every award there is in the economic development profession. And as the one that I'm most proud of is that Kansas, little old Kansas, attracted the most private sector investment on a per capita basis of any state in the country in 2021 and 2022. So two out of the last 3 years, we've gotten more per capita than any other state. So we are punching above our weight, and that's always the goal. More awards. So let's talk about Leavenworth County. Since Governor Kelly and I took office, we have worked deals totaling a little more than $355 million of private sector investment. Now, I want to be clear, we're not talking about grants, we're not talking about federal money. I'm talking about businesses that have a choice on where to invest their capital, and you've had $355 million worth of deals in this county. That is excellent. It represents about 300 jobs. So those are solid numbers, and we're really pleased to have had the partnership with Steve Jack, before, and now Lisa, and here with the chamber and everybody at the city, the cities, the county. It's been a really good collaborative partnership that has made this possible. I like to talk, though, about some of the other pieces that are critically important to having a thriving local economy. And the big picture here is you have to have a high quality of life in a community in order to be able to attract the jobs. Because when you think about companies that are making decisions on where they want to go, a lot of factors go into it. The real estate is important. Proximity to your customers. Can you hire the talent that you need? All those mechanical things. Incentives, tax structure. Those are important. But if you are the person who's going to come and move to a place and bring your family to a place, you want to know how the schools are. You want to know how the parks are. Are there trails? Are there things to do? Can you get a nice steak and a glass of wine on a Friday night? Who are our friends going to be? These are the quality of life questions that really matter. And as a department, we have shifted our focus from just the traditional incentive side of the equation to making certain that we are really thinking about those factors. So community service tax credits are a program that we use to enhance quality of life, and we've done something for Leavenworth Attainable Housing. We've done 2 base grants in Leavenworth County. I think, I could be wrong, but I think we paid for that sign maybe at the industrial park. Is that right? I'm not sure if that's right or not. I think that's right, because it's only a $56,000 grant. And then Lansing Sewer Extension at the industrial park, that's $1.3 million investment that we've made. We did what's called a draw grant, which is workforce training to Midstar Lab. We've also done a $655,000 broadband grant to get broadband infrastructure built in the county. As your county continues to grow, there are new areas that have more demands for broadband, so that's critically important. And then always so pleased to partner with Leavenworth Main Street. And Holly, I think you gave me an award. Is that right? When you were on the board, thank you for that. And we've been so grateful to have programs like Leavenworth Main Street that were here when the state Main Street program was shut down in the previous administration a decade ago, and we're still here and came right back to life when Governor Kelly and I brought back Kansas Main Street. And so that's a great program. And then also the Kansas Arts Commission, which had been abolished years ago, was brought back by legislature at the end of the last administration. They exist within the Department of Commerce as well. Again, it's about quality of life. And so we've been able to do an arts grant of some kind to Leavenworth Arts. Okay, so this is our deal pipeline, and I don't know how well you can see this in the back, but we have about 211, I believe, economic development leads that we are chasing. So we call that our deal pipeline. So this could be a company in Japan that we're talking to that's going to establish a presence in North America to support Panasonic. We want to make sure that they establish that presence in Kansas. Could be a company in Germany where we have representatives now that is evaluating North America. We want them to think first about Kansas. Or it could be a company in Chicago that we're trying to take from Illinois because we've got a much more favorable labor environment, regulatory environment, tax environment, and quality of life. So we're doing this around the country, around the world, all the time. So 48% of the economic development leads that we're chasing are in advanced manufacturing. So these are companies that make things, and we do a lot of things well in Kansas, but I think we're particularly good at making things, high quality products of all types. So it makes sense that about half of our deals fall into advanced manufacturing. Logistics and distribution, talked about that earlier, that's about 10%. Professional services, so white collar jobs, That's an increasing segment of our pie here. With COVID, there weren't very many of those kind of projects at all, but we've been able to be more successful in finding those opportunities and bringing them to Kansas. And then you can see we've got food manufacturing, we've got ag-related projects, we've got aerospace, which is small but growing. So these are the types of projects we're after. All of this is done, though, under the umbrella of the Kansas Framework for Growth. That is our economic development strategic plan. We went out and hired the best experts in the country to evaluate where Kansas was strong, where Kansas has headwinds, and come up with a plan for how we maximize our strengths and get ready for where we've got challenges coming down the road. One of those relates to automation. So I talk about the size of a lot of these economic development projects. They've gotten much, much larger in the 5 years that I've been in office. That's because these companies are investing in automation to address the fact that they can't find workers in a lot of places. So it's more expensive on the front end to build and equip these plants. If you look at some of the counties in western Kansas in particular, though there are other counties in eastern Kansas that have this as well, it's projected that in some of those counties, they will lose up to 30% of the jobs that exist today by the end of the decade because of automation. So you think about particularly meat processing. Those jobs are at risk. Now, fortunately, we're bringing in a lot of other companies and we're diversifying these economies, and there are other opportunities for these workers, but we have to make sure we're getting ahead of that so that we don't wind up with large-scale unemployment down the road. So we've taken a data-driven approach, and that has informed our plan. But the plan is built around talent, so that's just a fancy word for people. Innovation, which means we've got to keep up with the latest trends. We've got to make sure that we're investing in tomorrow's technologies today and that we stay current. Community, so that's what we're talking about here today. This is about bringing together all the partners, all the assets in places to help us grow. And that we all understand that we have a role, whether you're in the legislature, whether you're in a chamber, whether you are a small business, all this is part of how we grow the state. And then policy. Policy is about the incentive tools that we have at the state level and the incentive tools you have at the local level. So we go to the legislature every year and we report on the PEAK program where we rebate the withholding tax that companies pay as an incentive to get them to come to Kansas. We talk about HBIP. We talk about our training programs. Those are all authorized by the legislature. And so we have been very fortunate to work with our legislative partners to look at these tools and modernize them, and I think most importantly, make them more transparent. We want people to understand why it's important to have incentives so that we can stay competitive, so that we can grow the businesses that we've got and we can bring more in. And you got to understand, I'm sure there are people in this room that philosophically don't like the idea of the public sector giving private sector businesses money, particularly big businesses that have billionaire owners and all of that. I understand that. Philosophically, I feel the same way. The problem is that every state in the country and every country in the world has incentives to go out and grab businesses. And if we decide to lay down our weapons and say we're not going to have incentives anymore for companies because that isn't the way the world should work, it's over for us. So we have to stay current, we have to have aggressive incentives, and the way Apex was able to get done, which was the tool that we used to get Panasonic, it was through collaboration, partnership. It was a bipartisan effort with the legislature that happened in 13 days. You read all the time, you hear about how everybody's, how rough things are in the State House and people don't get along and so forth. I'll tell you something. My experience has been that when we bring a meaningful opportunity to the legislature and we say, this is the deal, here's what it means for Kansas, when we explain everything that we can explain, and when it's not the first time we go there, when we've had open communication all along, the legislature has stepped up, and that's how we won Panasonic. Everybody kept that confidential information confidential, unlike our neighbors in Oklahoma to the south, where they were talking about the name of the company when they weren't supposed to. And that allowed us to win. So I'm really proud of our relationship with the legislature. It has been bipartisan. It's bicameral. That's not right. That'd be House and Senate. But it's both branches of government. It's the executive branch and the legislative branch, whatever that term would be, working together. And so as Kansans, I hope people remember that sure, there's lots of debates and things are rough sometimes, but we have come together consistently to grow Kansas in the last 5 years, whether you're Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, and we should all be proud of that as Kansans. So I like to put these up just as a way to end. When I talk about incentives and you think traditionally about, PEAK and these other programs, those are very important. But what I've learned in the last 18 to 24 months is the most important incentive that you can provide a company is speed. If you can work quickly to get their project done and out-hustle the competition, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win. That's what we did with Panasonic, getting the most aggressive incentive in state history passed in 13 days. That's what we've done with all sorts of smaller projects where we have just run really fast, and sometimes you got to hop on an airplane. You wake up 9 a.m., you think you got your day planned, and the next thing you know, you're in Reno that night. And that is how you get things done. And so it's having folks like Ernie who are in place within regions in Kansas, and then folks that are around the country and around the globe. It's made all the difference. And we have an aggressive team, a really smart, sharp crew of people that care about speed. Quality of life, I've already talked about that. And then talent. So again, talent's just people. We need more humans in Kansas, period. It's very difficult when you've got 40,000 jobs right now on the Kansas Works job board, and we have 8,500 active job seekers for 40,000 jobs. And to be clear, 40,000 jobs isn't the number of vacant jobs in the whole state. That's just what we have on kansasworks.com. So I would estimate that for every job that is on Kansas Works, there are 2 others that aren't. So you do the math there. We can't just keep shifting people around from company to company in Kansas or place to place. We have to grow the pie. And so you're going to be hearing in just a few weeks about a campaign that we're kicking off at the state level and that we would like very much for you folks here in Leavenworth County and the cities within Leavenworth County to consider joining. And I'm not supposed to let the name of the campaign out of the bag just yet, but here's what we're going to do. This is targeted at people that graduated from Basehor Linwood in 2005, let's say. You pick your year. And when they graduated, maybe they went off to K-State, and graduated from K-State, and the job that they took after they graduated was in Dallas, or it was in Springfield, Missouri, or it was in Denver, or Nashville. And when you're 23 and you want to, you're unattached and you want to go out into the world, it could be exciting to move to one of those places, and we get that. Unfortunately, also, though, we recognize that in the past, there haven't always been the right economic opportunities in Kansas. Specifically, Maybe we don't have the jobs at all that line up with the degree that the student has, or you can make $20,000 more living in another place, doing the same job that you could in Kansas. We have been able to bring wages up dramatically in Kansas to close that gap. And so we want to target Joey from the class of '05 who left Leavenworth County, left Kansas for other places, and we're going to pitch Joey on coming back, on coming home. It's going to be a targeted approach that has to be driven at the local level by somebody who knows Joey, with family or friends that are still here. And we're going to have a suite of resources to help Joey find a job, find a house, understand all the great things that have happened back home since he left, and we're going to pitch him. And this is driven by a couple of guiding principles. Number one, it doesn't make any sense for us as a state to try to recruit people who've lived their whole life in Santa Barbara, California, or New York City and say, hey, why don't you move to Leavenworth County? If you can get them to do it, they probably won't stay because it's just too different for them. Just like if you take most people who spent their whole life in Leavenworth County and you put them in Midtown New York City, that's probably not going to be a good fit for them either. So we need to recognize that most people are tied to places where they are from. And you've got a better chance of getting someone to move who knows the place, who has emotional ties to the place because they grew up there, because they have family there, because now Joey has a wife and 2 kids, and wouldn't it be nice for the kids to be able to know their grandparents and have babysitters with the grandparents and so forth. There are practical reasons, there are emotional reasons. The other thing, and this is my personal story, and I'll end here. I graduated from Iola High School in 1995. I went to KU. My wife's from Pittsburgh, Kansas, also KU. As soon as we finished grad school, we moved to Washington, D.C. And that was perfect for us at that age and place in life. We lived in a row house, 16 feet wide. Our yard was 4 feet by 4 feet. I would cut it with hand clippers. I'm not exaggerating. That was our yard. And our daughter Caroline was born, and we realized, oh my gosh, Caroline is going to play in a 4 foot by 4 foot yard. And this was not how we wanted her to grow up. So we had the idea in the back of our minds that someday we would come back to Kansas. But what tipped it, I got a phone call from my old family doctor, for my folks and for us as kids growing up in Iola. Called me out of the blue. Worst pitch I've ever heard in my life. But he basically said, we've got this unique opportunity back home. Would you want to come and run this new organization that we've set up? And we'd love to have you. I'd never even imagined going back to Iola, Kansas from Washington, D.C. What did we as a family do 6 months later? We moved from Washington, D.C. to Iola, Kansas. And I did that work for 11 years in Iola, in my hometown. My kids got to grow up with their grandparents 2 blocks away and walk to school, walk to the library, and go play in the creek and do all the things that small town kids like me got to do. And none of it would have happened if somebody hadn't asked me. So when you hear about the campaign that's going to be coming out, please think about that and think about how your communities within the county and the county as a whole can participate. And I hope if you'll leave with one thing in your mind from this, think about one person you know who has left this community and left Kansas. I bet everybody in this room knows somebody that grew up here and is gone now and they're somewhere else. Commit to reaching out to them. You can do it now, for that matter. Say, hey, do you know all the great things that are going on back home? Hey, we'd love to have you come back. Pitch them. You don't have to be a professional marketer. You don't have to, this isn't, rocket science. Just talk to them. But that's how it gets done. That's how we grow the pie of talent, and that's how we supercharge the Kansas economy, Leavenworth County economy long term. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you. Want me to take questions? Do you have time?
Do we have time for questions? Does anybody have any questions for the Lieutenant Governor?
Hi. Oh, yeah, okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But I thought maybe if you could quickly, just to the arts system, by sharing the story about Panasonic and how they were pitched as far as, I hope you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Ryan Wills, my special assistant, one of the best humans you'll ever meet. And he is, among other things, an incredibly talented singer-songwriter. And Ryan took it upon himself one day as we were in the middle of a very, very intense recruitment of Panasonic. He looked at a business card from a Panasonic official. On the back, it listed the 7 guiding principles of the Panasonic Corporation. And Ryan went home that weekend and he wrote a song called 7 Things We Do. And he laid down the track and he brought it in and he said, hey, I don't know if you'd like this or not, but and it was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced, I think, professionally. We sent that to Panasonic via, I actually hand-delivered this. We got a 1985 vintage Panasonic boombox, like kind of carry on your shoulder. And, okay. and we took it to Panasonic's office in Washington, D.C., and they have a wall of vintage Panasonic consumer electronics. And we had put a cassette tape in there with a note from Governor Kelly, and we played 7 Things We Do by Ryan Wills on there. And when Panasonic flew to Kansas to tell us that we'd won, we were at Cedar Crest at the governor's mansion, and they said, thank you for this generous incentive offer. It was honestly about the same as Oklahoma's. Your site is really good, but Oklahoma's was really good too. Workforce, yeah, you guys are about comparable. But man, you wrote us a song. So that guy. So the arts matter very, very much in ways you can't even imagine. Senator Pittman.
So the number in Leavenworth County looks a little small compared to big numbers, right? 455 jobs. But what I really like is that Northeast Kansas is good for you. I mean, we don't have the number, but I think the number is significantly larger. We look at the number of jobs that have come in within 30 minutes of Leavenworth County that represents job opportunities. I don't know if you have that number on top of your head or anything like that, but I mean, approximately, we're looking at 4,000 jobs at Panasonic. How many jobs at Urban Outfitters, which is
2,000.
2,000, that's 6,000 plus the 400 that we're looking at then right around this county, because we really are part of this northeast quadrant. That's a huge growth engine.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the job growth in the metro, and I consider Leavenworth County to be part of the metro, has been extraordinary. And so while you don't have 2,000 jobs that have landed in Leavenworth County, for example, the economic impact without question is going to be felt here from Panasonic, from Urban, from all these other, Honeywell, we did an announcement down there, just 156 jobs, but these are $125,000 a year jobs. And so we have had deal after deal after deal that have a ripple effect across Leavenworth County and across the metro. So thank you for the point. All right, well, thank you again for having me. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Well, if you don't mind, he's got to get going, so we're going to excuse them. Too bad you can't sing us a song on your way out, Ryan.
Bring the guitar, sorry.
We just have a little token. Wanted to send you off with some stuff. Thank you again. That was amazing. So, and also we were. Please tell them. Sorry. So, thank you. Thank you again.
All right.
I was going to introduce you, but you got it?
I got it. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, at your tables, you should have had a handout that's got some information, one of which is our goals for today. I just want to review that really quickly. So our purpose in generating today's event, as you can see, is to keep our partners and business informed. The economic development goals are keeping our partners and business community informed about and engaged with programs and organizations engaged in economic development, and also to encourage unity within the economic development. Now, this being an election year, what's not written here as a goal is we're going to be hosting candidate forums starting about August to October. So if you're going to be a candidate, expect us when we invite you to come to our candidate forums. We're going to ask you, what do you know about economic development? Who are you working with within the community? And there's a lot of agencies. So what do you know, who are you working with, and what are you going to do in the office about economic development? So that's why we're having this informational forum. The second informational forum we'll have later in the year is on taxes. Mike Powell is putting that together, so that will be the next major topic that we as the Chamber will be asking candidates when we host those forums. Let me share with you two definitions that we came across that we think are important, because I'm a great believer is that to be able to talk about a subject, you've got to have a shared vocabulary. So you've got to understand and share a vocabulary of what it is. And we can find other definitions, but these are two that we settled on that I think define the topic quite well. Number one, economic development is a dynamic process. I love that, dynamic process. It keeps changing. That harnesses the power of physical, human, financial, and social assets. Goes along with the Lieutenant Governor just said. Its goal is to create a better economic well-being and quality of life for a community or a region, benefiting everyone. I love that last part, benefiting everyone. So if we're going to do this well, we've got to benefit everybody in our community. Second definition, economic development is a broadly based and sustainable increase in the overall standard of living for the individuals within the community. So that's kind of a framework, and we have invited many guests. So I'm going to introduce the first speaker, and then I'd ask for each of our subsequent speakers, rather than me having to get up and down and take up time, just please come up when it's your turn. And so our first speaker is going to be, I believe, Penny Holler. There we go. Penny.
Thanks, Ted. So Ted told me I had 5 minutes, so I'm sure I can cover everything the city of Leavenworth does for economic development. I'll introduce myself. I'm Penny Holler. I'm the Assistant City Manager and Economic Development Director for the city of Leavenworth. I appreciate the Chamber putting this together, the Government Affairs Committee, and it's really good to see this level of interest in Leavenworth economic development. Appreciate everyone for being here. So having worked for a governor on economic development projects, and spending the last 7 years working in city management, I see economic development through a wide lens. It's about the community, the people, the culture, the workforce, quality of life, the education system, public safety, roads, utilities, and bridges. I feel like I'm copying what the Lieutenant Governor said, but this was in my notes before that. If I only have 5 minutes, though, to summarize what the city does with traditional economic development, I would say it's a lot of work and a little bit of magic. So I only have 3 slides. We'll get through this quickly. I want to talk about My Little Love's Child Care Center. So this was a home-based business in Lansing that found there was more demand and needed more space. They also wanted to incorporate a specific child care curriculum that focused on outdoor learning. So they had found a building in Leavenworth on 4th Street, and coming to the city, we worked them through the process of multiple departments. And child care facilities, as you know, are heavily regulated for good reason. So we worked with the fire department, the state fire marshal's office, building inspections, planning and zoning. We even work with the police department on security resources. We also work through the local Network Kansas loan provider. That's the Grow Leavenworth County Development Corporation. I see many faces who've been involved in the board and support that program. And that program allowed us to provide gap financing to open up this child care. So those loans are, at the time, they were up to $45,000, and so we were able to connect this entrepreneur who was expanding her child care business with those loans. It wasn't quite enough she needed to make the project happen. So we also were able to do the paperwork and connect her with another Network Kansas loan, the KCIF loan, to meet her gap financing. In addition, I was able to work with her with the Small Business Economic Development Grant that the City of Leavenworth has for building improvements. As you can imagine, their site had been an office building, and they were moving it into a daycare structure, multiple classes, multiple teachers. So there were some building improvements that they made, and they were eligible for a city grant. And then I also was able to connect her with one of my master's degree classmates who was working at the state on childcare, looking at capacity building grants. So we had a lot of folks that worked together to make that project happen. I'm really proud of this project. This is one that, these are kids that are going to grow up and they're the future of Leavenworth. This allows parents and grandparents to work and provides us an available workforce. Some of those including Fort Leavenworth. The fort has great programs, as I recall, from my time living there, but there's limited openings, so this was also a need, say, for spouses to get employment in the community. I'm really proud of the folks that made this project happen, the building owner, the entrepreneur, the Grow Leavenworth County Board, and the folks from the city, which really is a team. In government, there's often work we have to do, and this was work we got to do. So I'm really proud of this project. So bringing and keeping large business. For those who don't know, I speak 4 languages. English, Spanish, and military acronyms are my first 3. I also speak the unique language of economic development. That's rooftops, traffic counts, population trends, transportation access, available workforce, development regulations, rezoning, and variances. That language allows me to talk about the city's 2 business parks. That's the Gary Carlson Park, which is owned by the Port Authority, and the 81-acre shovel-ready business and technology park that was actually an investment between Leavenworth County and the city of Leavenworth several years ago. We each put in $5 million to make that happen, and that's really a 100-year investment in the county. It has all the needed infrastructure, including electric, water, and stormwater detention, and Evergy has plans for a substation down the road in upcoming years. Working with the city of Leavenworth in economic development, you're working through that process directly with city management, and we're able to pull in everyone you might need to talk to. Your engineer is going to talk to our engineers. Your architects will work directly with our planning director on development regulations, zoning, anything else you would need. We're also plugged into the community and the governing body to make sure everyone is excited about a potential development. And we can look at your community benefit, that's jobs, level investment, and your pro forma, to look at industrial revenue bonds, tax increment financing, pilots, community improvement districts, fee waivers, and other possible incentives. The city of Leavenworth has a project portfolio where we've utilized all of those incentives in the past. And before we get there, I must recognize our proven partner, LCDC, who's really helping us get a tenant for that one on the left there. They're the county's EDC, and working around the nation, that's the entity often that site selectors and developers will look to help us look into something like this. They're the front face of the county, getting the Leavenworth name and our 2 business parks out there. And they were a driving force behind Hills and DSM, and they also work directly with the state Department of Commerce, and they can talk about state incentives and other support. After all that work, there's a little bit of spark, and that's where the magic happens. And that's when we talk ribbon cuttings and jobs and investment, and that's the exciting part. So we're waiting for that to happen to complete the Gary Carlson Park and to fill the Business and Technology Park. All right, last slide, I'll make it quick. I know there's a lot of speakers. I will say when you contact the city of Leavenworth, we can help you identify resources that meet your needs. That might be working with the SBDC or the SBA if you're an entrepreneur on business and marketing plans. That might be the city's grant program for fire suppression and ADA accessibility improvements. Or it might be information on Main Street and the Chamber to connect fellow business owners and be able to collaborate. We facilitate those connections best. Every October, we hold a business symposium. You can mark your calendars. It's Monday, October 28th this year. And we bring in folks from around the region to connect directly with our businesses and entrepreneurs. This year, we're looking to add a technology aspect in conjunction with K-State that will add to our evolving lineup for that session. And if I don't have your attention with all those great resources, I'll throw in free lunch. So my contact information is on the city's website, City of Leavenworth, Kansas. You can find it there. It might not be right in the program, so please feel free to look on the website and reach out if I can answer any questions. And thanks you all for being here. Thank you.
Oh, I have a slide. Fantastic. Hi, my name is Joshua Genztler. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the City of Lansing. I, unlike Penny, did not come with slides, so I'm excited to see that, and I'm just going to drop this right here. But I have been in the Leavenworth County area since 2008, my entire adult life, and I'm excited to be here today, partially because I'm excited about what's going on in the county, and I'm really excited about what's going on in the City of Lansing. Not just because they pay me to say this, though. I do really think that the city, the story of the city over the past, let's call it 5 years, has been one of taking ownership of what is going on in the city. And they demonstrated that through investment, capital investment, in taking ownership of Lansing Town Center, right on K7, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. That has given the city a lot of flexibility in cutting out the middleman, as opposed to connecting businesses to property owners. We are the property owners, so that means that we can do a lot with that property. We've been able to invest that in our workforce by working with Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and they'll be opening a campus in 2028 that is going to provide a lot of workforce development training for the residents of Leavenworth County. And then we're able to continue to work with businesses to be able to develop new retail sites and other commercial endeavors, to be able to support them with a great access to a state highway. And then we were also really excited to bring in 50 units of workforce housing. The Lieutenant Governor spoke about needing people in Kansas, and as we all know, housing is an issue in the entire nation, but especially in the state. And so we were able to work with Wilhoit Properties to be able to develop. They're actually going to be breaking ground in the next month on their 50 units. And then we have a couple of other unannounced projects that we are working on, specifically around some commercial development and also other support for the workforce that hopefully we'll be able to get on the books here or out into the open in the next couple of months. And then also, again, looking at the quality of life stuff. In 2021, 2020, we discovered that internet was actually really important. And so we didn't have we had a nice monopoly with Spectrum Internet, essentially, and the city was able to invest a lot of money to bring what became Clearwave Fiber into the community, and that has sparked other availabilities for the people of Lansing, which is incredibly important. But mostly I am excited for the future because we still do have that ownership. We have the ability to kind of dictate where we are going to be going and who we're going to be bringing into the community. And then also the council has determined we have a vision on paper. You know, it's good to have vision, but it's really good to share that vision. And a couple months ago, we were able to get something together and get it on paper. And we will be fleshing out the projects and programs to help support that vision. But I'm really excited about I'm a land use planner. I'm an urban planner, and that's my background. I'm really excited about the development code changes that we're going to be discussing next week at the City Council. And that'll open up a lot of opportunity for housing within Lansing. We have a great population. We've got great schools. We've got great location. But supply of housing is an issue. And so we're going to be working to legalize more housing within the city here shortly. So I'm really excited about that. So I appreciate everybody's support here because this is not a single person or a single community. This is something that we all do together. So it is incredibly exciting to be here to see all these faces of folks who actually care about our communities and what we're going to be able to do in the future. So thanks so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Brajkovic. I'm the city manager in Tonganoxie. I was fortunate enough to get that position back in 2017. Prior to that, I worked in the unified government in Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County for about 18 years, where I was the economic development director for a number of years before I took the job in Tonganoxie. So with that, I do have a couple of slides, but I'll go really quick because the iced tea's hitting, I guess. And I appreciate everyone that's still awake at this point. So I want to kind of focus more on Tonganoxie's strategy and our approach to development. We've been fortunate to have some fairly recent success stories in the realm of economic development, and I have to give all the credit to the previous city council who purchased some property back in 2009, and in 2015 and 2016 went through a very formal strategic plan session and public input to say, well, what do we want the city of Tonganoxie to look like? 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so they've stuck to that, and I guess I should recognize we have one of our council members, Chris Donnelly, here, as well as board members of the Tonganoxie Business Association and Dan Porter, the assistant city manager. All part of a team in Tonganoxie that works to get things done. So that was the vision. I guess I could have included preparation and partnership. So part of the preparation in Tonganoxie was a tax abatement policy. The city didn't have one. I kind of brought some of the ideas we had in Wyandotte County in 2016, 2017, and we adopted those. And I think that's important to tell potential investors in your community, well, here's what we're willing to do. Now show us what you're willing to do. And we use that to go negotiate development agreements that kind of spell out what each entity is required to do. In addition, I didn't list it here, but in 2017, we also did a housing needs analysis because the Department of Commerce at that time had a program, still have it, it's called RHID. The only difference was in 2017, it was called the Rural Housing Incentive District. And so we completed a housing needs analysis, got approval from the then Secretary of Commerce to create certain improvement districts in the city. And I'm going to touch on some of those too. The strategic plan, though, real quick, it's a multifaceted plan, as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. But I'm going to touch on a couple of things today, residential, commercial, and some industrial developments that I think are kind of unique and tell a pretty cool story, and I think it shows the creativity local government can have. But in case I miss somebody, I want to make a blanket statement that I want to thank all of our numerous local, state, federal, public, and private partnerships. All right, residential. So the big thing in the residential programs, again, is the use of RHID, and then KHRC is Kansas Housing Resources Corporation. They offer a couple of programs. So there's a couple of projects I'm going to touch on that I'll say what role KHRC played in those. So the first was schoolyard townhomes. This is a picture, I believe, from 2015-ish. This was the old Tonganoxie Elementary School or grade school. The school district built a brand new fantastic facility on a campus on the south side of town. They sold this to an absentee property owner who didn't do anything with it. We are so fortunate that a local group came in and acquired the property. We worked with them to do the demo on the site, and this is what it looks like today. So the city purchased a couple of acres. We built a new public library that's financed by a voter-approved sales tax initiative that also helps pay for citywide infrastructure. And then we partnered with Sunflower Development and Prairie Fire Development out of Kansas City to build schoolyard townhomes. This project has layered incentives. The first and foremost, tax credits that were acquired through KHRC. The city offered, as a secondary, some RHID funds as well. This project was unique because the city of Tonganoxie, prior to this multifamily project, hadn't seen any new multifamily in over 30 years. And so it was important. We had good renters, good folks in the community, and we didn't want them to go somewhere else to find better places to rent. Another good story here is this project was 100% pre-leased during construction, and my last conversation with them, they still maintain about 40 to 50 on a waiting list for the 26 units that are here. So small scale stuff. West Village, this was another project. We were really pursuing kind of more of a traditional apartment complex development. This site was a 5-acre site that had just a really amazing ravine running through the middle of it. It's a ditch, if you can't tell, sorry. And so we found a developer. So in the middle of this picture, it's a project called West Village. It has one garden-style apartment building with 36 units, and then 20 some odd single-story villas. Again, it's another project that's well leased. And then the last one, Stone Creek, is a large development area. This is actually the 10th phase of that development area. It's the last 34 acres, but it's right on 2440. That's the roadway on the left. Again, 34 acres. Roush Coleman, though, is building single-family homes. So this will be 142 units. Again, I remember what I paid for my first house, so I'm still kind of shocked when I say this is affordable housing or workforce housing, with homes starting in the high 2s and going to the mid 3s. So they're obviously breaking ground and putting in sanitary sewer and stormwater, but we're excited to have them. So commercial, I just have one quick piece on commercial. It's KDOT. So in the center of this is kind of a triangle piece of property. KDOT had listed this for auction for several years in Tonganoxie. Just to the left off screen is the Tonganoxie High School. So the city council approved making an offer to KDOT to purchase the property. So in short, we bought it for $2,000 and some change from KDOT. We did the entitlement work, went through the zoning process, sold it to a developer for about $220,000, and they built a DG Market. So DG Market, if you're not familiar with it, it is Dollar General, but it expands to fresh fruits and vegetables, meats, dairy, and so it's about a 13,000 square foot facility. We have a fantastic grocery store in the community, but this was an additional item for constituents to have access to food and other things they might buy. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a special infrastructure sales tax component, so it's nice to bring in another facility that generates a significant amount of sales tax. And I think this went from a KDOT property to, I believe it's on the county appraised or assessed value at a little over $2 million. And no incentives, they pay property tax. So industrial, like Penny mentioned in Leavenworth, Tonganoxie also has 2 business parks. Urban Hess is a smaller park. I'll touch on that in a second. And then the Tonganoxie Business Park is about 240 acres that the city of Tonganoxie purchased in 2009. Special partners here, the United States Economic Development Administration, they gave us a $1.5 million grant to build about $3 million elevated water tank at the site that helped us expand our infrastructure and not only grow the business park, but grow along that corridor. The Department of Commerce, KCADC, agencies that generate leads, and then we work very closely with LCDC and the Leavenworth County Port Authority, and then of course Leavenworth County itself. So Urban Hess, real quick, just kind of an aerial shot of a few of the businesses. They're smaller lots here, they're 2 to 5 acres, but the cool thing here is IST, Wilson Glass, HMC, DL Granite, Premier Landscape. These are all businesses and where the owners live in Leavenworth County. They live in and around Tonganoxie, and so it's really cool to see them not only stay in the county but grow here, which I think is what some other folks touched on earlier. And then my last slide, the Tonganoxie Business Park. So the city bought about 240 acres. There's a ridge that separates it. We developed about 140 acres through mass grading and extension of public utilities. The Leavenworth County, through a voter-approved initiative on county sales tax, gave us a grant of about $4.4 million to help us do some of this work. So I think I've heard other folks mention Hills and DSM and Unilock. The city's tax abatement policy considers 10-year tax abatement. So they're either through EDX, which is the Kansas constitutional exemption, or the use of industrial revenue bonds. So Hills, I think, represents the largest private capital investment in the history of Leavenworth County. I don't want to dispute the lieutenant governor's number, but I think when the governor's office, we negotiate those development agreements, and the development agreements say you have to invest this minimum amount of money, create this minimum amount of jobs. And so I'm happy to report that all of these businesses have exceeded the minimum requirements, and according to our tracking sheet, we're at over $500 million of private capital investment here and a couple hundred jobs, so high, good paying jobs. So that is the end of my slideshow, and I appreciate everyone's time, and thanks for attending today. And again, thanks to the Chamber for putting it together. Appreciate it.
Hi, good morning. I'm Krystal Voth with the City of Basehor, and I always have the unfortunate luck of going after Mr. George Brajkovic, but that's okay. Thank you for being here today, Lieutenant Governor Toland. That was a terrific presentation. I don't have any slides, but I will talk at you. I will try to keep it brief, though. I think you really hit the nail on the head today when you talked about the importance of quality of life issues. If you want to bring in development and retain development, those things are incredibly important. A nice steak with a glass of wine, check, and we've got a view too. So I think the city of Basehor has got some things working in our favor. But in addition to this terrific facility that we have here, we also have an incredible parks system, we have an incredible trail system, we have a city council who has made a clear commitment to priorities that encourage quality of life issues such as quality residential development, tackling commercial development, which we know in the city of Basehor is something that we desperately need. We have a robust housing market, which is quite obvious if anybody drives through the city of Basehor. We are currently underway at our civic campus we're developing 40 acres. Of course, that's our new city hall. There's a park, there's a trail, there's a fishing pond, and all of those things are so terrific, and we really believe that those are things that bring people to Basehor, in addition to the fantastic school district that everybody knows we have. However, we also are so committed to bringing in commercial development, and that's something that historically has been a bit of a challenge for us. However, our city council, who are just terrific to work for, has provided our staff with the necessary tools and resources so that we can draw in commercial development. And frankly, we are just a dog with a bone when it comes to things. You may have heard that Fairway Grocery Store is planning to open here in the city of Basehor. That literally started because our city administrator, after having hearing from our community, from our elected officials, we need a grocery store, we need a grocery store, we need a grocery store. She picked up the phone and called Fairway and said, let me tell you about the city of Basehor. Let me tell you why you should come here. And 6 months later, the city of Basehor Fairway said, well, we're coming to the city of Basehor. And we're coming to the city of Basehor to be the first full-service grocery store in the state of Kansas, and we're doing that several years before we had anticipated entering the Kansas market. So when you ask what we're doing for commercial development, frankly, we're just doing it. We own 240 acres over at an area called Basehor Town Center that we established a TIF district around. There's approximately 300 acres that are actually part of the TIF district. We're actively extending sanitary sewer there so that we can bring development. Multifamily, we know that's crucial, especially if we're going to support these commercial developments that we know we need. We have, excuse me, I need a drink. Sorry. So sorry. We know that we have to partner with local developers. We have to partner with developers outside of the city. We have to sell our city, and that's what we do. We're excited when we get them here because they see what a terrific place this is to live, work, and ultimately play. Really, I just cannot tell you how committed we are. George, Penny, Josh, they did a terrific job of laying out, these are all of our incentives that we have, that we offer. And the city of Basehor is open to doing any of those things that need to be done. We are creative when we need to be creative. And again, we're we're going out there and we're getting it done, and we're excited. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Lisa Haack. I'm the Executive Director of Leavenworth County Development Corporation. Let's see here. Awesome. Great. Okay, LCDC for short. Our mission and our role here in economic development is to facilitate the creation and retention of jobs and capital investment throughout Leavenworth County. We're funded in part by the Leavenworth County Port Authority, by each of the cities of Basehor, Lansing, Leavenworth, and Tonganoxie, as well as about 70 private investors. And we take all that experience and knowledge and we bring it together. And we are governed by a board of directors, and we are led by 5 executive committee members. I tried to put all of these people on the same page, but we have too many, so we have 2 pages. We broke it up into, the first page has the private sector board members, and at the top row, you can see our executive committee, starting with Jeremy Greenemeyer, our president right now. And then these people here in the private sector are leaders in their organization. Just David Schrader is the CEO and president of Great Western Manufacturing, the oldest manufacturer in the state of Kansas. Blaine Weeks, he's the CFO from at Geiger Ready Mix, and they are doing the concrete at Panasonic. What we've got is 6 financial experts, 2 construction engineers, 5 developers, realtors, 2 commercial contractors, 3 manufacturers, and 2 educators. Here we have the public sector. So we have board seats with the city managers and city administrators from each of the 4 cities of Basehor, Lansing, Leavenworth, and Tonganoxie. Leavenworth County has a seat at on the board, as well as the Leavenworth County Port Authority. And then we have our ex officio members, who includes the Leavenworth-Lansing Chamber of Commerce, the Basehor Chamber of Commerce, the Leavenworth Main Street, Fort Leavenworth Garrison, and then the Tonganoxie Business Association. So again, we have a collaboration of all these private sector experts and then these public sector experts, and we are able to bring them together to do economic development for the entire county, and that way we're able to move quickly and efficiently. We have 3 staff members, me, and then we have Diana Dodd, our assistant director, and then Mary Mack, our office manager. Because we only have 3 staff, we have to make sure that we make the best use of our time and that we are concentrating our efforts in the most efficient way. So, though we focus on the industrial primary companies, we are positioned to help any business that walks in the door, and that's largely because of the partnerships that we have throughout this room with all these different organizations throughout the county. These are just a few examples of some of the companies that we work with. We've got Great Western Manufacturing, as I mentioned, at the top left. You've got Modern Advanced Printing Solutions up on the top right corner. Hill's Pet Nutrition is below. Like it was mentioned, that's the largest capital investment made by a manufacturer in Leavenworth County's history. Below that, you've got Hallmark. If you move over to the bottom left, that's a rendering of DSM Firmenich. This is a company, as George said, they are still in construction, and when they're done, they'll produce a pet food ingredient, and they'll sell to Hills, but other companies worldwide. And something interesting about that, just to kind of talk about how much time sometimes these projects take, that project came from Kansas City Area Development Council. That's our regional economic development organization. And from the time it came from them to the time that they announced, it was 4 years. So sometimes in the world of economic development, these things just take time. If you move to the right, you've got Cereal Ingredients in Leavenworth. They produce food particulates and inclusions. And this can be a blueberry in a muffin. It could be cinnamon swirls in bread, or it could be the green specks on a Cool Ranch Dorito. Pretty interesting. And the cool thing about these businesses, they don't have to be in a city to impact that city. The people that the people that work at Cereal Ingredients and Hallmark, they live all around the county. Those people are buying groceries, buying gas all around the county. Sometimes and often they are leasing or buying homes too. And as I said, their existence has a ripple effect. These companies are providing good jobs. And the more good jobs we have in this community, the more likely our kids are going to stay in our community and contribute to this community after they're finished with their education. They're providing ancillary businesses. I say DSM is an ancillary business of Hill's Pet Food. It probably is because of them that they came. So that's how they bring other businesses with them. They're adding to the population because they are creating all these jobs. And then they're increasing the tax base, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. These are some examples of some of the companies that we've worked with and their impact on the community. We won't call them out. We'll just talk about, we'll name them A, B, and C. Company A came to us in 2005. They came with 35 employees, promising to grow to 50, and they had a tax abatement, a 10-year tax abatement, which is long gone. Since then, they've expanded twice, and they are up to 200 employees, and they pay them above average wages, and they offer medical benefits. And so and also, interestingly, over half of their employees live in Leavenworth County. So their 2023 property taxes were over $233,000. Company B opened in 1979. They grew to 75 employees, and then recently they announced their expansion program. They've expanded their footprint to double their footprint, and they'll be growing to 145 people. So in 2022, before their expansion, their property taxes were over $49,000. And then the next year, because of their expansion, it grew to over $111,000. Finally, we have Company C, who's relatively new. They came in 2022. They employ 20 people. They do have a 6-year, 60% tax abatement. They built a building that's valued over $1 million, and at the current mill levy, their property taxes is over $30,000, and I fully expect this company to grow just like the others. How do we attract these businesses? We start with a professional website that provides the information that these site selectors and these developers and realtors are looking for. We have a property database on that site. We are very active on our social media. We send out email blasts and mailers that highlight our available properties to over 200 of those site selectors, developers, and realtors. And we attend networking events. We go to marketing trips. Lieutenant Governor mentioned those people that are stationed throughout the United States. We were just in Arizona. I went on a trip with the Lieutenant Governor Toland and his team to Arizona. And so we go on those kind of trips. And then we also respond to requests for information. These are how we learn about prospective projects. And so we get these RFIs from our partners, including the Department of Commerce, Kansas Department of Commerce, our Regional Economic Development Organization, KCADC, and then occasionally they come straight to us. So just by responding to these RFIs, we're raising the awareness of our community. And even if we don't get picked for a particular project, we're just top of mind in that project manager's eyes as they work with future projects. Much of a community's capital investment comes from those existing businesses that are already in their community and want to grow. So it's really important that we have a robust business retention expansion program. And Diana Dodd, our assistant director, is responsible for that program. That slide. it looks different than what it, anyway, so she works very closely with those existing manufacturers and primary industries, and she meets with them regularly. She develops those relationships and learns if they are having any difficulties. If they are, she'll assist them or she'll connect them to one of our partners that can help. So then also, oh, sorry. This is a picture of Zephyr Products. Randy Reinhardt cutting the ribbon. He is the president and CEO of Zephyr Products. They are a metal fabrication company in Leavenworth. They announced their significant expansion program last year. We've been working with them for years, and this project will double their footprint and their workforce as well, and we'll be working with them continually through this project. Attracting and retaining workforce, as you've heard, is one of the biggest challenges for our companies, whether they're new or they've been in the community. So it's really important that we are helping them with workforce. We started a job and career expo last year, and we're having our second annual one this year, as you can see. Diana has also been assists our companies to help them fill those vacant positions. She's also working with the resources in the community that can help, such as the state's Workforce Partnership Program. We have an office in Leavenworth County, Fort Leavenworth's Transition Assistance Program, and their Army Community Service Employment Readiness Program. She's working with University of St. Mary, Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and all of the high schools to help improve the talent pipeline for our incoming and existing businesses. And finally, I'm at the end. I just want to talk about, we work really hard for our partners and for this county. And we feel that we've really had an impact here. The companies that we've helped facilitate have, in the last 3 years, we've seen 302 jobs, both retained and new jobs. We've helped existing businesses with grants, loans, and tax savings that have totaled almost $3 million. And we have worked with companies that have invested over $18 million. Those are the existing companies, and then new capital investment is over $518 million, totaling over $537 million for Leavenworth County. That is the end of my part. I will like to say that we also assist the Port Authority. We do the staff work for the Leavenworth County Port Authority. And here today to talk to you a little bit about what the Port Authority does is their past chair, Chris Donnelly. Oh.
I guess first I need to apologize for all those folks who are on the list after Lisa. You're going to have to wait just a second longer to get up here, but I will be very brief. The Leavenworth County Port Authority is one of 2 port authorities in the state of Kansas. We are Leavenworth, and then Stafford County, is that correct? Jeremy, out in western Kansas, or southwest Kansas. The Port Authority is a quasi-governmental agency. It's established by statute for a sole purpose of economic development. And the Port Authority's job currently is to find industrial space for manufacturing, for things that create tax base, that take burden off of the private sector or the housing industry in our county. Now, I will be real brief and just kind of give you a little bit of an example back of how the Port Authority works with partners. And the partners within the Port Authority are the county, 4 cities, Leavenworth, Lansing, Tonganoxie, and Basehor. The Port Authority was established in the 60s by the city of Leavenworth and the Leavenworth County, and then as recently as 2020 added City of Tonganoxie, City of Basehor, and City of Lansing as partners. And so those entities are the board members or appointed board members for the Port Authority. Now, how the Port Authority can assist in economic development, and I'll just give you by a couple stories. Back in early 2000, you'll remember a couple names. Myself, Harley Russell, and Terry Andrews met with Bob Hatch. And Bob was the founder of Cereal Ingredients. We met with Bob Hatch on a Sunday at one of the banks in Leavenworth. the important part of it, I was the president of LCDC. Terry Andrews was the president of the Port Authority. And Harley Russell, of course, was in everything in Leavenworth, if you remember Harley. But we worked together with a commissioner and the city of Leavenworth, county commissioner of the city of Leavenworth, to get Bob to come to Leavenworth. And he had a few incentives, and I won't go into detail, but for the longest of times now, he's got hundreds of employees. He's paying a lot of tax base. It took a long time because that industrial park started in the late 70s and 80s. And it took a long time to get Bob to land his plant in that park. Now they're paying taxes. I'm going to fast forward, and I'm skipping here quickly, but Urban Hess in Tonganoxie started in the 80s, sat empty for years, but now you saw George had pictures, and so did Lisa, of 4 new buildings in the last few years. And those are all now paying taxes that residents' houses don't have to pay tax on to cover. The Port Authority's job is to create those opportunities. And the final thing I'll leave you on is what I think is important in collaboration and long-term investment in economic development in Leavenworth County. In 1997, I wrote a letter to Dr. and Audra Eyrick, who owned the land that is now the Tonganoxie Industrial Park. And I asked, on behalf of the Port Authority and Leavenworth County Development and the city of Tonganoxie, we asked them to consider selling that 240 acres of land. Well, it took to 2009 to get it done. I can remember sitting at their kitchen table in Lenexa and talking with them about selling that property to somebody, Port Authority or to the city. And it took to 2009 to get it done. And then, as George mentioned, we're looking at now $500 million in investment. So what the Port Authority is going to do in the future, what we are doing right now is we're studying in future industrial park space in Leavenworth County. It's not for one city or the county, it's for the entire county. We're studying where is the next space, and we're going to need support, and you're going to be hearing about it in a long time, in the near future, probably before the end of the year, of how we're going to continue economic growth in Leavenworth County that produces tax base that takes burden off of the individual. And I think it's an important piece of this, and I think that probably the benefit to the county is that the folks on the board are there for the entire county, not for their community only. And without support of you, City of Leavenworth, City of Lansing, City of Tonganoxie, City of Basehor, LCDC, these things won't happen. And we can do that quickly because of the status of the Port Authority. So if I could answer any questions about what the Port Authority is or what we're doing, please ask. I didn't expect to ask a question.
You got my question. So the Port Authority can own land, right?
Yes.
So can it only be agricultural land, or can it be, can you buy an empty building?
Mm-hmm. Actually, the Port Authority owned a building at one time in the Tonganoxie business, in Urban Hess. Built a spec building. We can own a building. We can build a building. We can.
The old building?
Yeah.
So it can be downtown, so you're not falling apart?
Yeah, it comes down to what's the purpose, and you got to keep in mind the purpose of the Port Authority is really industrial.
Yeah.
And the last thing we want to do is compete with the private sector that's doing the same thing. So it's really more industrial to get that footprint of industrial tax base spread. I hope that answers, but we can do it. It does have the ability.
Take the right proposal and then purpose.
Yeah.
But it also has to be zoned industrial?
Well, the purpose would, the first thing we would do is work with the city.
Yeah.
And of course, it would be LCDC doing all the legwork because we're all unpaid volunteers on the board. So you know how that goes. But we would go to the city and say, does this fit? How do you want to do it? Because it's important for our partners to actually help us direct the traffic. So I would like to say there's lots of opportunities, it's just, does it fit?
Right.
So I hope that.
Delivering a steady quality life, paying people taxes,
Anyways, moving on. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I just advance it. Thank you. My name is Lisa Weakley, and I'm representing Leavenworth County today. I'd like to thank the Chamber and the Government Affairs Committee for allowing us to participate today. We are one of the county's economic development organizations. Our focus is on the small business entrepreneurship. And we are a board very similar to the Chamber and to LCDC. We are made up of small businesses within the county, and we also collaborate with the City of Leavenworth and the City of Lansing and LCDC. GLC, as we call ourselves, is authorized through Network Kansas as an e-community. An e-community is one that provides gap financing when that small business has a primary relationship with a bank. Our loans can be up to $50,000 now, and they're at 4% from 1 to 5 year terms, 6% for 6 to 10 year terms. How we work in collaboration with the City of Lansing, Leavenworth, and also LCDC, those are going to be your points of contact if you're a small business, or you're going to come in contact with us if you have a relationship with your lender from a financial institution too. That is another option. Basically how this works, Penny gave the example of My Little Loves that she helped. That was a result of financing too from LCDC. They were a part of that. Basically how it works is that entrepreneur came in, worked with Penny. Penny says, this is one of the tools in my toolbox, then I can help you get your project done and get started. She basically fills out a loan application. It is subordinated to the bank's position. We review that as a board on LCDC, and then we also pass that along to Network Kansas. They review the loan is approved, it closes, and we're able to support entrepreneurial ecosystem in Leavenworth County. That's our purpose there. So from to date, from 2012 to today, we have done 63 loans, and in that, the funding that we've brought into the community is $2.7 million. So we've had a good success rate with that. Once we have a relationship with a small business, we also can tap into Network Kansas has other funding programs that can support entrepreneurs. We do education seminars and workshops too to help educate and support small businesses. But I'm going to introduce Robert Wilson. He is our coach from Network Kansas, and he's going to review with you a little bit more about Network Kansas and the other loan funding programs. Robert.
Am I the only one that's disappointed that the Lieutenant Governor's assistant didn't sing the song for us? I already went on and Googled trying to find it online on Spotify or something so that maybe we could play it. So Network Kansas is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2006. It was established by the Kansas legislature through the Kansas Economic Growth Act of 2004. The purpose of the organization is to establish the establishment and growth of entrepreneurship and small businesses as a priority for community and economic development in the state. So we do work primarily with entrepreneurs and small business owners. We are fortunate to be in partnership with the Kansas Department of Commerce with not only a very strong partnership in a number of ways, but also with funding, very generous funding support as well. Lisa mentioned the e-community partnership. That's one of our major programs. We have approximately 73 e-communities across the state. Most of them are at the county level, including Leavenworth. And Lisa kind of hinted at this, but one of the things that is really important that we feel about the e-communities is that through the e-community loan program that she mentioned, those local boards, like Grow Leavenworth County, have local decision-making authority to make those loans up to $50,000. And so we don't approve those loans. They're approved by Grow Leavenworth County, and then they are sent to us for to have all the paperwork processed and finalized. We kind of get the paperwork end of it. But in addition to the e-community loan program, we are also partnered with the Kansas Department of Commerce with the Grow Kansas loans. That's currently a $69 million pot of funds that are allocated through the Department of the Treasury at the federal level, through the Kansas Department of Commerce and administered by Network Kansas. There are a variety of loan programs through Grow Kansas. I do have a display set up over here to the side. There are handouts about all of our loan programs, so I won't go through all of them today. I also wanted to highlight the partnership with the Kansas Health Foundation and other partners that established the Kansas Community Investment Fund. That's a pot of loan funds that are available for basically healthy behaviors and similar health-related issues, but it also covers daycares, for example. A lot of funding that we send to or provide to daycares do come through the KCIF program. We also offer and assist growing businesses that are interested in scaling with a division called the Entrepreneur Growth Initiatives, or Growth Ventures, excuse me, that is an arm of Network Kansas that helps companies secure equity financing. We do have some equity funds available through Grow Kansas, but there is also this service that helps connect you to growth ventures, different equity funds, equity partners in the Wichita area, the Kansas City area primarily. Some of you may be familiar with the educational programs that Network Kansas sponsors through the e-communities. Some of you may recognize Destination Boot Camp, which is a course that business owners can take to help establish their business as a destination business. In other words, something that's going to draw travelers and others specifically to their destination. We also have across the state a variety of county-based youth entrepreneurship challenges, which are local entrepreneurship competitions for youth, primarily in middle and high school. There was a competition here in Leavenworth County this past October, and the state competition just happened a couple of weeks ago at K-State. I'm pleased to tell you that Aaron's Lawn Care, who was the winner of the county competition, he went on to state and did place in the top tier of awards. So congratulations to him. K-State, or excuse me, we are also partnered with a variety of partners across the state, K-State being one of them. Many of you might be familiar with or have heard of K-State 105. All of the Board of Regents universities were charged with coming up with ways to assist economic development throughout the state. K-State is known as K-State 105. We are very closely partnered with them in helping them to implement their initiatives as well. Just wanted to close with a note that if any of you are interested in learning more about the loan programs, I'd encourage you to contact Penny Holler with the City of Leavenworth, Josh Genztler in Lansing, or Diana Dodd with LCDC. They are sort of the loan packagers. They're the ones that will help you with the application and help you kind of get started on the process, and then it ultimately goes to the Grow Leavenworth County Board for approval. So we are very excited and have appreciated a very long partnership here in Leavenworth County and look forward to continuing that in the future. And we appreciate being invited today to share with you a little bit about our organization. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll give this a try again. Thank you for the dramatic, accepting that dramatic pause. So, Mid-America Regional Council serves a 9-county area on both sides of the state line. So we look at the metro area as a whole, so it's kind of a 50,000-foot view as opposed to the more localized view you've been hearing about. We look at a wide variety of issues, but many of them kind of support economic development. This is our sort of mission statement, and what we're looking at is trying to help people grow to their full potential and communities grow to their full potential. That all happens really with, where everything hits the ground is inside communities like those in Leavenworth. This is just looking at our webpage. I'm not sure why I did this one, other than we try and advance the progress of the region. We have these main sort of focus areas, and several of these are related to economic development, such as the transportation planning. I'll get into that a little bit. We also do early learning, so childcare is important, and we also have a focus on economic analysis and the performance of our regional economy. So transportation plan is currently being updated. It's going to be adopted at about this time next year. It has a call for projects out right now. We're looking for soliciting projects that the communities want. One of the principal policy goals in our long-range transportation plan is economic development, but there are others, the safety of the system, the condition of the system as well. So we try and balance that. We want to help create quality places. I heard some questions about older buildings and trying to reuse the places that have gotten tired, and we want to encourage that. We also want to grow where it's important for us to grow. MARC is the economic development district for the Kansas City area, according to the Economic Development Administration. We prepared this comprehensive economic development strategy. That's by preparing that enables all the communities in our region to be able to access EDA funds when that's appropriate. So it's an important plan. We are going to sort of rush through it this year, but as we do this the next time, we really want to do a better job of involving local agencies in making sure we are capturing their plans. It is overseen by a set of economic development agencies, the Regional Workforce Intelligence Network, we call it. But I think we could do a better job in really having a more cohesive economic development strategy. Anyway, this document does exist, and we'll be revising it this year, but stay tuned and get involved as we try and update it further. We have to do this every 5 years. Although we did it in 2022, sort of an interim, because we were reacting to COVID and what that meant for our plans and how that sort of derailed everything. This is just the little web page on the Regional Workforce Intelligence Network, just to remind me that some of you may already be involved in that, but if not, maybe you could be. We do a lot of work around data. So I'm Director of Research Services at MARC, and the data world is where I live most of my life. And we provide a lot of data about the economy, about the workforce. We have access to a lot of data through our website, so I encourage you to go there. A lot of data, though, is not on our website, so if you have questions, please look us up and ask us. And we can, if we don't have it, we might be able to direct you to it. We certainly help you think through an issue, and that can sometimes be helpful. This is an example of a data tool we do have online. It's around childcare. It's the early learning landscape. It's got data on school districts and where providers are. But here we're looking at some of the drivers of early childhood demand. And this is a single parent family. So you can see how those are concentrated. We have this data for, these are census tracts, so they're small areas that divide up a county. And we have that data across the region, including in Leavenworth. This is another one. It's called Community Views. Allows you to get a quick view, both at a city and a county level. Here we're looking at median household income for Leavenworth County. And you can use that to compare yourself to other counties and get some quick data that way. We work in partnership with many organizations. This is a group, this is a sort of a business-led effort by the Greater Kansas City Chamber, the Area Development Council, the Civic Council of Greater Kansas City, and us at MARC, called KC Rising, trying to create an economy that grows and grows faster, because our analysis is, when we look at metros that we want to be like, we are lagging on our level of growth, but also we want to make sure it includes everyone. And so looking at measures of growth and inclusion throughout a metric system, which is going to be released, I think, at a May 15th May 16th, something that event for KC Rising, and then you'll be able to access some of the metrics that we follow. But one of the things that came out of this work was work around the biologics sector. We worked with MIT to refine what it meant to create sort of a whole new industry around our existing life sciences cluster, but this new technology about using life itself to create drugs. So all the drugs you see on TV that are advertised today, those are all biologics. And we don't create those drugs, but we can make them here. Matter of fact, we already do make a good share of the world production because there's a Pfizer plant out in McPherson, and we're looking at this entire corridor from essentially Manhattan to Columbia, Missouri. And so we make a good share of vaccines. We make a lot of animal health vaccines as well. We're trying to parlay that expertise and really ramp up our capacity. And we were successful in getting a designation as a tech hub as a result. And that's the kind of thing that can have, as you're building your industrial sites, whoever was doing that, some of those facilities could be here. And so that's the kind of thing that we support you. We are not going to do it for you, but you can benefit from the work that we do. And we want to be a partner with you. So, thank you.
All right, well, I want to thank my committee. First of all, Kelly and Jeanette, thank you so much for your help. Thank you for being here today. I apologize that we ran over a little bit, but 10 minutes, that's not too bad. Thank you. I hope you see that we got an incredible economic development community. You ought to be involved. If you're not, please contact the folks who spoke today. There is a place for you to be part of our economic development. Thank you all for coming today.